going on, guys? Welcome back to Trench Talk. I'm your co-host, Christian Royston, joined by my other co-host, Logan Shanks. It's a Friday, kind of different for us, but we had some games earlier this week that we can actually talk about now.
Yeah, I think we're finding our schedule here where we can do a bi-weekly, and although they're probably both going to be close to 2 hours, maybe feel a little bit more fleshed out through both of them and not have to feel like we have to jam-pack everything from Sunday, Monday, and Thursday into one episode.
Yeah, this way we can actually – this one might be shorter just because we aren't talking about, 12 games. But so we do have a couple big ones that we had the pleasure to watch.
Yeah. To our disagreement, apparently we're going to start with Monday Night Football. Christian and I had a little talk where I'm like, well, we went to school for this for 4 years. Don't we want to do Thursday night because it's more timely? And he's like, well, what, are we going to talk about Thursday, then go all the way back to Monday and then talk about Sunday? But so I was like, well, I can't argue with that there.
Yeah, if we're doing timely, we're just not going to talk about Monday at all.
That's true. Well, and we can't do that because actually both games were pretty decent for a Monday night. Well, we learned a lot from one game, and the other game was probably just more entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from both. The first thing I learned is the Jags are terrible.
Yeah, and Doug Peterson is is he on the hottest seat right now in the NFL, or is there someone worse?
Oh, he's probably not on the hottest.
Who do you think's got a hotter seat than Doug Peterson?
Whoever the Panthers head coach is.
Dave Canal. He is a first-year head coach, and they won with his first. Or they won after changing the starter.
Yeah, but they have to keep winning.
Yeah, but Doug Peterson hasn't won at all this year.
Well,
and he did not have a great end to last year. I think he's on the hottest seat.
I think they'll probably put this game behind them just because it is the Bills, and they kind of look like the best team in the league.
That's true.
So it's at some point, I mean, their losses aren't terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the Browns game, that's winnable. Who are their other games? I feel like they have a couple more winnable games in there. But yeah, the Bills come out and they put on
the Dolphins with Tua.
Yeah, probably one of the most complete offensive games we've seen. We'll talk about another, complete offensive game later on. But, from the Bills' standpoint, Josh Allen I think I heard it on another podcast. He took that, people calling him overrated in the offseason. He took that pretty personal.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, he didn't turn the ball over once.
He hasn't turned the ball. I don't think he's even fumbled yet this year.
Yeah. Kind of crazy considering I needed him to fumble the ball to win fantasy, but it's okay. Lost by less than a point.
He's fumbled once this year, but it was not a turnover. So right now he has a 9-0 touchdown to turnover ratio, with 7 passing touchdowns, 4 on Monday night.
Mm-hmm. You can't really. That was the one gripe that people had was his turnovers. Mm-hmm. But where are they at?
That's true. That's kind of right now, I would say, even with given how Patrick Mahomes has been playing so far this year, Josh Allen so far this year is probably the best quarterback.
Yeah. And I think I saw somebody note this. It's nice to see the team without Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Because he's actually able to get actually run through an offense instead of, try to find Diggs on every play. It's if there's no receivers that are stars, you're kind of forced to actually play well.
Yeah, he completed a pass to 10 different receivers I just counted up.
Mm-hmm.
Khalil Shakir, 6 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. Other touchdowns went to Dalton Kincaid, Ty Johnson, and Keon Coleman, who I told you, I don't know if it was for fantasy or for a bet, but don't bet on Keon Coleman because he may have had a good week 1, but I bet on him to get over 40 receiving yards a couple weeks ago, and he did not hit that. So I don't know what it is, but
did he He got a touchdown though.
He did get a touchdown, but that was one catch for 24 yards. But regardless, we can't hate on the
That was
Bills
the
too much.
anytime touchdown. Come on.
That's true. We can't hate on the Bills too much because their defense. I mean, that I think I've learned this year, or was kind of really reminded this year that Minnesota and Buffalo might be the two hardest, and Arrowhead, but some of the hardest places to play in the NFL. I mean, those Bills the Jags could not get anything going, and I think a big part of it not only is the Buffalo defense, but that fan base in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Might have said that wrong. Maybe too many F's in there. Rutherford sounds more. That's probably real. That's probably better.
Yeah, I was just gonna see if you could figure it out.
Rutherford.
A lot of F's in there.
Yeah, that's. Anyway, your thoughts on the Bills' defense?
I think they look good. I mean, did Gregory Rousseau get? Nah, that's okay. He'll get another one. But I mean, besides that, they just have a lot of players that can make plays. And
Yeah.
somehow Damar Hamlin, he's come back and actually been impressive.
Yeah,
He got that pick.
5 sacks. One from Von Miller and AJ Epinesa, who I remember
From
when he
Iowa.
got drafted out of Iowa. He was probably like one of the most hyped edge rushers coming out of that draft. Didn't really do anything his first couple of years, but he's really started to come on. And yeah, you mentioned it. Damar Hamlin gets his not only first career interception, but obviously the first interception, probably the first big play really he's made since making his return back onto the field.
Yeah, and the last 2 games he's actually looked pretty good because he had that big stop against Tua, keeping him out of the end zone and off the field.
Yeah.
And he also made a pass breakup in the Dolphins game as well. So,
you want some bad news?
What?
According to Ari Mirov on Twitter, the Browns have ruled out David Njoku, Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin, and Pierre Strong for Sunday's game versus the Raiders, in addition to placing all-pro guard Wyatt Teller on IR earlier this week.
Well, this isn't news. We knew this.
Well, Wyatt Teller, yeah. But, I mean...
And Njoku and Wills got hurt last game.
Yeah, but that's now 3 offensive linemen out. They're cooked. Whatever... And they play the Raiders. Max Crosby is probably going to have 2 sacks in this game. I'm actually going to bet that right now. You talk to the people.
Okay. I think this is a perfect scenario for the Browns because if Deshaun Watson can get hurt or play bad, we get Jameis.
And you get to get rid of his contract, most likely.
And I love Jameis. So.
You'll say that. You say that now, but then he's going to go out and throw a couple picks.
That's okay. As long as he throws touchdowns too. That's what we had with Joe Flacco. He was winning games. So,
give me defensive props, sack props.
Nothing hurt here, besides the shot. But yeah, I mean, I don't really want to talk about the Browns. We should talk about the team that lost to the Browns this year. I mean, the Jags just didn't look good at all. Trevor Lawrence wasn't moving the ball well. Had some accuracy issues. Obviously, has that pick to DeMar. And then, I mean, their play calling just didn't seem like they wanted to get back in the game.
Right.
I mean, it's tough with Josh Allen throwing, 4 touchdowns in the first half. But, I mean, at some point, you got to look at it and say, okay, your run game is averaging, I think it was averaging probably like 8 yards a carry early on. And they ran it maybe like once a drive.
Yeah, it's the second half was a lot better for Lawrence. Granted, they're down multiple scores, so
and
it's
the Bills probably just didn't care at that point.
Yeah, but he finishes 21 for 38, 178 yards, a touchdown to pick. Through 3 games, Trevor Lawrence, 560 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I hate to, overreact to a game like this where the Bills defense both the Bills defense and offense just looked unstoppable, but I mean, we talk about Doug Peterson being on the hot seat. We've seen really one good year out of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, what can he do? I mean, he has to get better from here. He has to.
Well, there's like almost nothing he can do on the Jags. That's kind of the issue. I mean, he showed what he has, and I mean, he is a good quarterback. I think obviously the offensive line letting up 5 sacks is tough, but at some point you got to show that you're not a good quarterback and you're an elite quarterback. You're
Especially,
one of the greats because I mean you were picked number one. I mean
he's
he's a
got that big,
generational talent.
yeah, and he got that big contract in the offseason as well, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that everyone was surprised about because of the year that he was coming off of, which wasn't great. They implode. They missed the playoffs after they had like a 90+% chance after starting the year. I want to say 9-2, maybe, whatever it was.
Yeah, and he hasn't won a game in a long time.
No, I don't think they've won a game since maybe it would have been maybe last December, November. So
Yeah.
it's been a while for them.
Yeah, if you were born this year, you have never seen Trevor Lawrence win.
Yeah. Kind of I mean, thinking about that reminds me of when we got a random topic here, but last night when I was covering high school volleyball and I'm looking around and I see like littler kids walking around. I'm like, isn't it kind of crazy that these kids were born in the 2010s, probably like late 2010s, and like
Oh,
I'm probably unk status being born in 2001.
don't even get me started up.
Well, I mean, really, our friend, we joke about your age, but like, really, it is kind of like, it is weird to think about that some kids are born like there's college players now that were born in like 05. Like that makes me feel old.
Yeah, I mean these kids that are like class of 26, they were born in a year. But I mean, yeah, no, that's just crazy to think about.
Like Keon Coleman was born in 03.
That was the year that my sister was born.
Yeah, I
That's
was gonna
crazy.
say that's when my girlfriend was born too. So it can't be that crazy. But
that is kind of crazy. But there's somebody in the NFL that's the same age as my little sister.
Well, younger than me, which is not great to think about. But
a lot of these guys are younger than me.
That's all right. But I mean, I'm done with this Monday night game. If you want to move to the other one, which is probably a more impressive showing, I had more fun. Thankfully, when I got back from the gym, I probably missed most of the Bills Jaguars game, which I wasn't too sad about watching it a little bit while I was warming up on the treadmill. But pretty much got to watch most of the second half of the Commanders Bengals game. Your thoughts on that? Bengals lose 38-33 at home.
Well,
dropped to 0-3 on the season. It's a lot of threes there.
Too many threes. I was gonna say, I kind of watched most of the first half of the Bills game, just because I was out losing trivia, classic Monday night. But this Bengals game, I didn't catch it. I went back and I rewatched it yesterday before the Thursday night game. And just because at the end of it, I saw the end. I saw the Commanders win. The crazy thing is there were no turnovers or punts, which is what everybody's been talking about. So I was like, I gotta go rewatch this.
I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong here, when was it? Is this the first time since, I believe it was like 1940s or something like that?
1940.
I mean, with how many games have been played in that time, I mean, that's 80 years, like over 80 years. Like it's baffling to me, but I don't blame you for wanting to watch that game, actually, because the second half that I was able to watch, I mean, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow kind of getting into a little bit of a shootout there. Of all things, Jaden Daniels really having probably the best rookie quarterback performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he finished with over 91% completion, which is the highest for a rookie.
Went 21 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then on the ground, 12 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown, led the team.
Yeah, more total touchdowns than incompletions.
So My question to you is, I mean, is he firmly the front runner for offensive rookie of the year?
It's tough to say after what I mean. We'll get to it, but after what we just saw from Malik Neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
I think if Jaden Daniels brings his team to the playoffs, though, there's really no debating against him getting it.
I would agree. It's kind of like the RG3 thing where he won, he had a great season, and he brought Washington to the playoffs. So
Yeah, and I hope it's not RG3
mm-hmm.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Because,
Well,
I mean, Jaden Daniels, we saw Jaden Daniels slide
yeah.
on Monday, so that's kind of cool, protecting himself.
Yeah, making me more worried. Every week he plays, I get more worried about when the Cowboys have to play him because I was talking to another Cowboys fan a couple weeks ago, just like, well, it's been easy in the NFC East because the Cowboys, we don't have to worry about the Commanders or the Giants. Like, we just beat them. Maybe we drop a game to the Commanders once every couple of years, whoop-de-doo, but really we only care about the Eagles. Now, I have to start worrying about the Commanders. They, like I said, beat the Bengals 38-33. I have to when you're watching that game, what's really the problem with the Bengals now and starting out the season 0-3? I thought that was the best game they played so far.
I don't think there's a problem with the Bengals necessarily. I mean, the defense looks not as good as advertised, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, I mean, they have Hendrickson, who's definitely one of the best defensive ends in the league. But besides that, it seems like they're stopping the run pretty well, but they're not really defending the airs at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
think that's the big issue.
and it almost surprised you even more because Jaden Daniels is going to want to move out of the pocket, escape the pocket, go for a run. I mean, like I said, he finished with 12 carries for 39 yards, leading the team, but he drops back to pass 23 times, and you let him complete 21 of those passes to not an amazing receiver core.
Yeah, outside of
Outside of
Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin and an very old Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of weapons. I mean, Austin Eckler is outdated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Ertz is nowhere near what he was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Terry McLaurin, who's probably one of the better, probably a top 10 receiver in the league, but
Mm-hmm.
is not used to having a good player throw to him.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean Terry McLaurin. The best throw of the night was obviously that touchdown throw to Terry McLaurin, 56 or 55 yards, excuse me.
mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my favorite channels on YouTube, That's Good Sports, put it pretty frankly when he said it was an FDR, a dime.
Oh, good one.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna have to steal that phrase, not on air, but I'm gonna have to start working that into my daily life because that was I mean, perfect rainbow throw, stuff you watch in the highlight days.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that ball come out of his hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that just shows you how good Jaden Daniels is. I mean, I was a little skeptical going into the season just because he's a skinnier rushing quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He had most of his success on the ground, so it's like, can he? I mean, he still had a good arm, but it's like, can he stay healthy? And I think the Commanders' offensive line is doing a good job of keeping him upright.
Yeah, they'll go up against the Cardinals this week, and I'm really excited to watch that. Two obviously young running quarterbacks, scramblers, able to throw the ball deep, big arm. In that game, Jaden Daniels was only sacked twice, as was Joe Burrow. We can move over to the Bengals side.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, scoring 33 points and still losing, this has to feel like the biggest defeat of the season. Even with, how things ended at Arrowhead last week, you got to think this is probably the biggest loss of the year for them.
It's even worse because they had those 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
They kicked that field goal. I think it was in the first half, I want to say.
Yeah, Evan McPherson
Shanks
did. Yeah, he missed a field goal. which
And then,
he's almost on fraud watch because recently has not been great.
yeah,
Has not been great.
well, kickers are disposable at this point, unless you're Brandon Aubrey.
That's true.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they missed that field goal. The 2-point conversion doesn't work, which they feel they have to go for because of how much they were down because of the missed field goal. I mean, there's your 5 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have sent it into overtime. I don't, it might have just come down to a coin flip anyways. But I mean, the Bengals looked good. Joe Burrow doesn't seem like he's the problem. I think people are overreacting and they're trying to point fingers, and I don't think that the finger should be pointed at old cool Joe.
Yeah, I mean, well, people can hate on him as much as they want. He hasn't thrown an interception yet this year, which is surprising because I could have sworn I thought he did week 1 or week 2, but he threw 3 touchdowns Monday night, 324 yards, completed 29 of his 38 passes. Jamar Chase showed out, 6 catches, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So any fantasy owners, you're lucky to have him. He's back, but I mean, an 0-3 start is just, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to work back from that to even sniff out a wild card spot, honestly.
Especially in the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean, a wild card spot, you need at least 10 wins, right? Like at least 10, maybe even 11 with how good the AFC is. And now you're at 0-3, so that means for your next 14 games, you need to go 11-3, 10-4. I mean, is that realistic for this team?
I don't think it's realistic if they don't get their act together. If they don't figure out what the glaring issue is, because it seems like they're in games, and I mean the defense is like letting up just enough points to where the offense can't get over that, or the offense isn't scoring enough when the defense is holding. So it's like they're just not synced up well,
Right.
The defense is performing on days that the offense isn't.
Yeah, like you look at week 1, the defense holds the Patriots to 16 points, but the offense isn't clicking. They only scored 10. Kind of get into that, grudge match between the Chiefs, where honestly a really solid game. The defense holds Patrick Mahomes. They get 2 picks off him, hold them to 26 points. That's kind of just a bit of a toss-up there. But this one, I mean, that's a lot to ask Joe Burrow on the offense, even with how talented they all are, to go out there and score, pretty much 40 points. Yeah. So next week they play the Panthers. This week they play the Panthers. That's if they start 0-4, we got to start having some conversations about coaching, especially with Zach Taylor, which he's probably riding that Super Bowl appearance harder than anyone in a long time.
Yeah, he's betting on that to keep his job, but the Panthers game is a must-win. Like, it is probably the biggest must-win they've ever had. Because if they don't win that, not only do you lose to the worst team in the league, who, sure, they had a miracle win last week because Andy Dalton played like he was 2015 Andy Dalton. But that aside, you cannot start 0-4. It's impossible to make the playoffs if you start 0-4.
Because then their next 3 weeks are at home against the Ravens, on the road against the Giants, and on the road against the Browns, and then at home against the Eagles. I'll go even further. So, I mean,
and the Giants haven't looked bad these last 2 weeks.
No, I mean, you got to think, obviously, between there's a win there, but if you lose against the Panthers, you're 0-4. And then the Ravens, who have looked better. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're on pace for like a 2-6 start. And at that point, you're battling for the first overall pick.
With how these seasons have gone, both seasons have gone. I'm actually scrolling down a little bit. They do play they play the Cowboys on the road for Monday Night Football, December 9th, 2 days before my birthday. So I think that honestly could be a must-win game for both of those teams with how their seasons have gone down the stretch. I could see that being like the Cowboys are sitting at like maybe 7 wins there, and the Bengals are still maybe fighting for that wild card spot. So,
and we might have to see where they're both sitting. Just
yeah,
as you said.
That'd be a big game. I guess we could move on to Thursday Night Football if you're good with this Bengals Commanders
I mean, we're already talking about these Cowboys.
Well, I'll just give it to Jaden Daniels. What a performance! I am now starting to get scared about the Commanders.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked him up in all of my fantasy leagues. I had a hunch.
Yeah. So, yeah, just if he wasn't in my division, I would love watching him play. But yeah, we can talk about this. We could talk about this Cowboys Giants game. Start off with a couple of opening remarks, like a head coach. First of all, I was listening to a podcast before this game, and it was a Cowboys fan talking. He's like, "I'll just be honest with you. You can clip this if you want, put it back in my face if we lose. We are not scared of the New York Giants." And I was like, "Okay, this is what I need to hear because I'm not going to be able to watch a lot of this game or probably a lot of the first half because I'll be working, but." I just need to know because a lot of people are talking about, oh, what if the Cowboys dropped to 1-3? No, Dak Prescott, especially with him under center, we don't lose to the Giants, and we didn't. With that being said, this is probably the least assuring game or least assuring win I've ever watched by the Cowboys since becoming like a hardcore football fan, and I've probably watched every Cowboys game since about 2019, 2020.
Oh.
I haven't. I mean, I'm not. We won, but it didn't look great.
No, and if the Giants had found the end zone once, this game could have been very different.
If Daniel Jones completes that Hail Mary at the end of the game, who says that they don't find Malik Neighbors in the back of the end zone for a touchdown to walk it off?
Well, if he completed that Hail Mary, the game would have been over because
no timeouts.
No timeouts. The dude was way in bounds.
Never mind. But I forgot that part. But I saw that interception. I was like, okay, good, cool, whatever. I figured they were going to win, but
yeah, I saw where the ball landed, and I was like, oh, that play just did not matter.
Yeah. But and I sound like I'm hating on the Cowboys a lot. I am a little bit. I hate to be a delusional fan, but a win's a win. We do move to 2-2. Some bright spots. Dak looked great, as did CD. Running game got going a little bit, and I think the Giants' rushing offense kind of came down to earth a little bit. I don't think the Cowboys' defensive line played that great, to be honest with you. I know they hold them to, I believe it was like 40 rushing yards this game, which for the Cowboys so far this year is great. But less than. But I think with a back like Devin Singletary, I mean, I would hope that we can hold the Giants to at least under 80 rushing yards, which we did. But we also lost a lot in this game.
I mean, that was my gripe with the Giants. It seemed like their game plan was never set up to win.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, I mean, it seemed like they just wanted to get field goals. Because you talk about this, the Cowboys going into that game, I think they were allowing like the second most rushing yards.
Second most, I want to say.
Yeah.
Might have even been the most, honestly.
Yeah, they were allowing a lot of rushing yards. They keep Devin Singletary. I think he was at one point at like 1.1 yards per carry. And yet the Giants just kept handing the ball off. I was like, all right, like, what are we doing here? They were just like, we might as well start these drives at 2nd and 12. Why not? Or, it's second down. Let's 2nd and 5. How about we just make it 3rd and 7?
Right.
It's like they were just shooting themselves in the foot. That's maybe I'm biased as a Malik Neighbors owner, but you got to let the ball go. I mean, Daniel Jones, just around 75% completion, 280 yards. I'll erase that interception because it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, no touchdowns because they just they just weren't going for the end zone.
And especially when they run the ball like that, they dominated the time of possession. They had 35 minutes to the Cowboys 24, but like you said, they just are not. But they play a. Daniel Jones played a really solid game between the 20s, but outside of that, couldn't. I mean, it really kind of did feel like maybe the play calling was holding them back. But when Malik Neighbors and of all people, Wandale Robinson go off. I mean, I had to check the box score for this because it was unbelievable. Wandale Robinson had 11 catches and Malik Neighbors had 12. So between them, that's 23 of Daniel Jones's 29 completions.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the game, it really seemed like those Wandale Robinson catches. Sure, he ended with 11.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those were just he was the dump off guy.
Yeah,
and he was never getting first downs.
I heard a guy talk about it after post game on a podcast I was listening to on YouTube. That it was like they were completing these balls to Wandale Robinson to set up like 4th and 5 or 4th and 3, and I was like, that's pretty accurate. It's like you have to like, I know Daniel Jones is probably playing for his job right now and doesn't want to mess up, especially with a great receiver like Neighbors, but you have to at least give him some better options beyond the sticks. And that's coming from a Cowboys fan who doesn't want them to play well.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is they had Neighbors probably double or triple team the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times he was one-on-one with Trayvon Diggs. And, I mean, all these people that were hating on Trayvon, like, what was that, 3-4 years ago when he had, like, record-breaking year?
Because, whatever. I mean,
he literally played like a lockdown corner.
Yeah, I was going to say, I liked the tweet, and I didn't know if it was not real. Apparently I didn't like it, but I think he held him to 2 catches on 15 yards. Malik Neighbors, that would be. So,
yeah, if a lot of Malik Neighbors catches were when Trayvon was not on that side of the field.
5 targets, 2 catches, 16 yards allowed, 2 pass breakups, 19.2 passer rating.
Yeah. I mean, they just could not throw the ball to Malik Neighbors with Trayvon on the field.
But the thing with that, and we can kind of get to it, even with how well the defense played, I'm still not very happy with how Micah played, first of all. And then we saw at a lot of points, so at one point, Overshone went out. I don't want to mess up his name, so I'll look it up, but he went out for a little bit. He finished the game and actually had a really solid tackle in the red zone, I believe in the third quarter, to force a field goal, so that was pretty hype. But then Micah Parsons got carted off the field at the end of the game. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't finish the game. Trayvon Diggs didn't finish the game. Both of those last 2 guys on the sideline just watching. But, gosh, I texted you and I said, I'm thanking God above that we have 11 days before we play Pittsburgh, because we need that. I think, obviously Lawrence and Diggs are going to be good. Micah, I don't know. I told you, did I just watch Micah's last game as a Cowboy?
Yeah, you might have.
Because, and I hate to say it because it's the same problem that I had with CD, is I don't want to see him leave because I feel like I'm going to see him leave and ball out on another team. But Micah's resume the last, honestly, year and a half has not played him into a crazy extension as an edge rusher for the Cowboys. And maybe that's the best thing with where this team is at right now, cap-wise and, roster-wise.
Yeah, they can't really afford to give a player that much money off of what they think he's going to do. Because if this is a season-ending injury, which we don't really know, but a little concerning that he was on the cart with his shoe off.
Yep.
That's usually never a good sign.
It says here on the NFL on ESPN, feared to have suffered a high ankle sprain. So that's what, a month?
Yeah,
month
that's
and a half.
not bad. But then he
That's
really has to ball out when he comes back because
yeah. One sack so far this year, had a tackle for loss last night, but it almost feels like, honestly, offensive lines have figured him out. And it almost just feels as simple as, well, they don't really have that many threats on the defensive line because we're starting Mozzie Smith, our first round pick from last year, who is not good. So they're like, well, they don't really have any other threats. DeMarcus Lawrence sometimes, Osa Odigizua sometimes, best name in the NFL. But so if we just double team Micah Parsons, he's not going to touch our quarterback. And that seems to be working for teams these last few weeks.
Although I don't think he was double teamed like almost at all in this last game because he was one-on-one with Andrew Thomas, who should be a household name. I would probably say he's definitely a top 3 left tackle in the league.
Yeah, he's really kind of come into his own his last couple of years.
Yeah, I think there's an argument for him to be the best. I mean, he allowed maybe 1 pressure from Micah Parsons that whole game. I mean, he's by far proven that if he's on the line, doesn't matter who he's going against, he's going to keep Daniel Jones upright.
Yeah, and
so that's kind of a tough ask for Micah.
I would honestly say that, kind of moving over to the Giants back a little bit, but I think Malik Neighbors, I think we haven't given him enough credit because I feel like almost kind of like Odell when he was with the Giants, is keeping their quarterback's career alive. Kind of like how Odell did with Eli and Malik is doing with Daniel Jones.
Yeah. I was actually looking at this because it looks like he set another record. He's on record-breaking pace.
And he left the game with a concussion. It was kind of scary for a little bit. He was on the ground for a while, and I was like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, when he went down and the way he stood up and walked to the locker room, I was like, yeah, that's a concussion for sure.
So maybe he misses a couple games, but
I don't think he'll miss a couple.
We'll see. Right now, is leading the league. He's played an extra game than everyone else, but is leading the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, 35. Is he 35 catches?
35 catches, 300 some yards, and 3 touchdowns.
That's pretty good.
Yep. Dak Prescott leading the league in yards with 1,072, first to break 1,000, 6 touchdowns, tied for third most. So.
Well, of course, he's the first to break. He played an extra game.
Yeah, whatever.
But back to Malik Neighbors. Here's a guy. Before the season started, everybody called me crazy. They didn't see my vision. You have this guy who's like outstanding in camps. And I think I talked about it on this podcast early on when we were talking about the camps. He looked like a star right away. They're like, if anybody's going to come out of this, if any rookie's going to break out this year, it's going to be Malik Neighbors because he has looked really impressive at camps. Along with that, he's Daniel Jones' number 1 option.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that's become very apparent since, I mean, he's had the last 3 games, he's had double-digit targets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this last game, I think he had 14? He had 18. He had 18 targets against the Commanders, I want to say. That's like Amon-Ra St. Brown numbers.
15 targets, Wan'Dale Robinson with 14.
Yeah. And I mean, he almost has a game-saving catch there at the end, which knocked him out. But yeah, I mean, he gets open. I mean, that's all you can ask for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this Giants team probably has the most hope that it's had in the last couple of years, I would say. After they make that playoff or that little bit of a playoff run back in 2021, but their next couple weeks, they've got the Seahawks on the road, then they're back at home against the Bengals, and then they have another division game at home against the Eagles. So I don't know. It doesn't really get that much easier for them. But I will say I'll be tuning in to watch Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, me too.
He's just a fun watch. So other than that, I guess the last thing I had on here for the for the Giants was where do you think they really go from here? I mean, with those games and how much better can this team really be? I don't think a playoff team at all, but just where can they go from here?
I think they can. I wouldn't rule them out of the playoffs yet. I think the NFC least is winnable for any team there. I think the Eagles don't look great. I haven't seen a game that's been convincing from them yet. If they get Saquon going, they're good, but it's a toss-up if they can keep him healthy the whole year. The Commanders, sure, they're exciting, but that was also the first game that Jaden Daniels threw a touchdown. You got to keep that in mind.
Say what you want, call it the NFC least, but I think these divisional matchups are going to be entertaining.
Yeah, they'll be entertaining, but it's definitely not the most competitive division.
It's the Cowboys and the Eagles still, is what you're saying pretty much.
I think they're the teams to beat, but they've also shown that they're very beatable.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And then I guess for the Cowboys, I mean, I know it better than anyone else. These next few weeks are tough. They've got the Steelers, which already, what are we going to see from them? And then let me look after. I know they've got playoff contenders for the next few. Then they have at home against the Lions, on the road against the Niners, who we never play well against, on the road against the Falcons, then back at home against the Eagles, and then the Texans, and then on the road against the Commanders. With Micah being out, the offense still, like the run game's still not really impressing me at all. I don't know how it's going to look for the Cowboys these next few weeks.
Yeah, I think they drop at least 3 of those.
Yeah, so we'll
not good after their start.
No, not gonna be great. I actually labeled it as hell for them. So, I'm probably the most negative Cowboys fan you're going to see after last night's win, but it just wasn't really reassuring at all. You win, we beat the Giants, like
by a score.
Yeah, we're supposed to beat them. Like we were favored in this. We were supposed to beat them, and the way that we won was not impressing.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you only put up 20 points against the Giants, which is kind of saying something.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, please just move off of this. I mean, this game. I'm done. We can move into Sunday. Maybe I could start using these banners that I made.
Look at that.
Look at that. I meant to label it as Cowboys escaping the Giants, which they did. But we'll move into our NFL Sunday preview. Won't go through every game, but because really I don't think there's that, this slate of games this Sunday isn't fantastic, and Monday to be frank with you guys, but I guess what games are you kind of looking forward to, Christian?
I mean, I was looking forward to Packers-Vikings. I know we've seen Jordan Love at practice, so maybe he comes back. If he does, which, I mean, it would have to be like a miracle probably for him to play against the Vikings, but that could be an entertaining game.
Yeah, and I want to say, that's in Lambeau. This matchup is.
The Vikings rarely win in Lambeau.
Yep, but maybe they have the team to do. I mean, you thought maybe they did with Kirk Cousins, but now who knew that Sam Darnold was going to have this resurgence? See if it kind of keeps up. I'm definitely excited for this one as well. Be watching that one. If we have to make a pick, I guess, I think regardless if it's Jordan Love or Malik Willis. I'm gonna take the Packers.
Yeah, I think the Vikings keep their hot streak going because I think this is kind of a prove it game. This is like, okay, you've beaten good teams already. Now prove that you can beat your division rivals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is probably one of the hardest places to win in football. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Malik Neighbors, Jordan Love, doesn't matter. Josh Jacobs is gonna probably tear up the defense.
mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to see them put in a solid effort, but I think they'll do it.
I agree, and major implications. I know it's still early. I'll say that a lot about a lot of these games, but I mean, if the Vikings improved to 4-0, who saw that coming? Packers dropped to 2-2. Just kind of puts them in a rough spot moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Especially for that division race, because we thought it'd be Packers versus Lions, but now it seems to be everybody versus the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of feel like everyone's kind of fighting an uphill battle. Maybe I'm still kind of looking for a little bit more to see from the Lions as well. But I think we're going to get that in their Monday night matchup with the Seahawks, which we know that always turns into a little bit of a shootout between them.
Yeah, and especially with the Seahawks kind of looking good, and I have yet to hear anything about Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I am also keeping an eye on that for my fantasy team.
Me too, because he is one of the better running backs in the league, and they've kind of been without him because that week 1 he tore up the field, but then got hurt.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see both the rushing attacks. Hopefully Kenneth Walker's healthy. We could see them both square off. We got Kenneth Walker and Zach. Is it Charlemagne? Or is it
Charbonnet?
Charbonnet? Charlemagne that's the rapper, isn't it?
Yep, the rapper from that one podcast.
From what?
He's from a podcast.
No, he's got
a talk show or whatever.
No, he's got a Riding Dirty. Riding Dirty. Riding Dirty? Yeah. Yeah, I remember first listening to that as a kid. It would be on in the radio. I thought that just meant like is how innocent I was. What?
Like your car is dirty?
No, like he's got dirty shoes or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that shows you how innocent I was. I was like,
oh, he's also has not Charlemagne. That's Chamillionaire.
Oh, whoopsies. Sorry. That's embarrassing.
How did we get here? It's like we just fell down a set of stairs. And here we are.
Sorry, Charlemagne, Chamillionaire.
Yeah, right. Song. Charlemagne. Yeah, radio host.
I thought he made music, but anyways.
His name is Charlemagne the God?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's kind of cringe. He's always white knighting for the girls on his radio show. So be respectful to her. It's like, brother.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but...
Oh. We can explain it after.
No, but anyway, between Zach Charbonnet, not Chamillionaire, and Kenneth Walker against David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And then, of course, you got threats on the outside with DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Tyler Lockett. And then on the other side, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson. I mean, it's even embarrassing that they put Dolphins Titans on the same night as this because nobody's going to be watching that. Everyone's going to be watching. I mean,
you would have to tie me down and tape my eyes open to watch the Dolphins versus the Titans.
I want to say so. Both those teams are 2-1, right? Yep. Or Seahawks are 3-0. Lions are 2-1. So, Geno really not playing that well, but
no, he never does. But they do win games.
Got my boy DK Metcalf over there. So,
excited. Yeah, he could be solid wide receiver too.
DeKillian Zacharias Metcalf. I'm excited. I think that's probably the game I'm most hyped for outside of Buccaneers Eagles. Rematch of the NFC wildcard game. People remember Bucks took that one, took care of them really easily when the Eagles came to town. Now they are going to Philly. And Baker, after not a great performance, although his offensive line didn't help him, he's going to have to go up against that Eagles defense again.
Yeah, and other way around, too. The Eagles, who haven't looked great, I think, aren't they coming off a barely win over the Saints? Or
yeah, for sure. That their offense didn't get their what together until about 5 minutes left in that game.
15-12.
Yeah, so both teams sitting at 2-1. Buccaneers are hosting that game, so that's even more in favor. Hopefully, they're still able to host that game. Thoughts and T's and P's out to all the people in Eastern Florida right now dealing with that hurricane. So,
always a hurricane in Florida.
Yeah, hopefully safe travels. They're a division rival, but hopefully safe travels to the Eagles as well, who are having to fly in from Philly.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on that game.
Mm-hmm.
They could move it. Depends on how bad it is. I know.
A third Monday night game?
I mean, they did something similar when the Bills were snowed in.
Yeah, didn't they have to move it to Tuesday or something? We had Tuesday night football.
Yeah. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago, but there's no way that they could do that, actually, because there's no way they could do that because the Bucs play on Thursday against the Falcons. They would not. The NFL would not do that, right? There's no way they can move that to Monday, or even there's no way.
No, they would have to move. They'd have to swap one of the other slots with that Thursday game.
Yeah,
which would be a lot of headaches.
Yeah, they'd have to be like, "Oh, sorry, what random two teams? You're actually playing on a short week. Bucks, Falcons get to play on Sunday now." Yeah, hopefully, hurricanes fucking up the sports world. But I'm excited.
Sorry,
for this.
Hurricane fans.
Hurricane fans. I'm excited for this one. Hopefully Baker and the Bucks have kind of a bounce back game on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to love watching Bucky Irving, their rookie running back, who's been playing really well.
If you don't have him in fantasy, stash him.
Yep, I picked him up.
Me too.
I also picked up Jawan Jennings, which you were giving me some hate for, but
bad pickup.
Not a bad pickup.
Let me go on my soapbox about Jawan Jennings real quick, because I think he's probably going to be the most added player. I bet he's 100% picked up now. Like, that's how dumb people in fantasy are.
Okay. For the record, I'll say Christian can talk, but I'll give out his fantasy record as well because he thinks picking up Jawan Jennings is so dumb.
My record does not show how good my team is.
That's what everyone says.
Hey,
1-2.
I have a 1-2 record, but I have the best team in the league. Sometimes it's like that. You know?
It's like that.
Sometimes, yeah, bad luck happens. You know, that's fantasy for you. I have 3 of the top 5 receivers. I have Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra, and Rashee Rice. Mm-hmm. I have Brock Bowers, who's the number 2 tight end. I have Jaden Daniels, number 2
Worthy on your bench. Stroud on your bench.
Kenneth Walker has been hurt. He would have been a game changer.
Okay, you do probably have the best team in the league.
Yeah, but things are out of my control. You know, sometimes you just got to set the lineup. I benched Jaden Daniels last week. That's my bad. Best team, worst manager.
It's okay.
I can't even think of anything. But where was I?
I'm also 1-2, by the way, so I can't really talk. I can't really talk that much. I'm also, but I'm probably going to win this week. So, thank you, CD and Jake Ferguson, for giving me 23 and 11 points.
Yeah, Jawan Jennings. People have these weeks all the time. It's like a perfect storm. It's like, you know, You have everybody's injured, which are not long-term injuries. Debo's back in practice. He's probably going to play. You have Kittle, who's probably going to be back next week. Brandon Ayuk, for some reason, is playing bad. I mean, there's so many players on that team that can catch balls. At some point, they're going to throw it to Jordan Mason. It's like he had 46 points. Cool. That's going to be the most he'll ever have in his entire career. That's how.
But you got to look on the upside of what if I'm going to use him as a flex guy. What if he gets me like 15, 18 points?
But you look at what he averages outside of that, he's probably going to get you 5, like what he did week 1 and week 2.
He's rostered 79% in ESPN fantasy. That's up 49% from last week. And in Sleeper, he is at 82% roster. Mm-hmm. That's 38% up from last week.
And I think I'm playing against Juwan Jennings this week, and I'm so happy because he's going to put up probably 3 points.
Okay.
And catch 2 balls.
Calm down.
That's just how it is.
You do know they're going up against the Patriots, right?
Yeah, so we could see a lot of Jordan Mason.
Anyway, I'm going to do a couple more games here. We can do Jaguars-Texans, which feels like a must-win game for the Jaguars.
And for the Texans, because
I think the Texans will be fine, but if they lose to the Jaguars, then that would be very concerning.
Yeah, this is a game where we need to see CJ Stroud kind of take – this is a division game. You have to win. You have to give it to your division opponents,
And I really hope that Joe Mixon is back, not just for my fantasy team, but their offense is just 1,000 times better with him in there.
Yeah, I thought maybe Cam Akers could carry some weight, but he's no Joe Mixon.
He apparently Cam Akers was like, yeah, I'm going to be pretty good in like 2020, 2021, and then after that, I'm just done. So.
He scored a touchdown, but outside
did they win?
That, nope, I think that was the only touchdown.
Yep. So I would agree there. Must win. Jaguars. You can't drop to 0-4, but I think that's honestly what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, this is a game where like both teams are like need the win.
Yeah, and a game where especially one team needs to continue to prove themselves. Sunday Night Football, Bills-Ravens. I think this could be very entertaining. Maybe the best Sunday Night Football matchup we've had so far this year.
Kind of a tough poll for the Ravens. Because, I mean, they've been struggling.
It is
1-2.
It is in Baltimore. They are 1-2. I want to look up Josh Allen record versus Lamar, or at least just the Ravens.
Well, these are different teams than they've been. So
Josh Allen is 1-2. 1-2 against the Ravens.
1-2, but also like different offense, different defenses. So I think
did not play them last year.
Yeah. So this is a game that it's the Bills to lose. Like they are going to be heavily favored.
I would agree. Yeah, I'm probably gonna. What's the points on that? Baltimore by 2.5 though. So
the Bills are underdogs.
The Bills are underdogs going into Baltimore.
Well, you want your lock of the week? There it is. What is it like?
Baltimore minus
120.
Baltimore minus 2.5. Bills money line is plus 115. Very close there.
I know my betting. I just never win. So, if you need to buy groceries, just toss a good old 50 on the Bills.
Over under set at 46.5. I'd probably take that. Considering how
not gonna help score that.
Yeah, well, considering how well the Bills' offense has looked. But a team that I'm looking to see a better offense from Chiefs versus Chargers. Chargers obviously without Derwin James for this one, who is getting suspended one game after what looked like a targeting call or unsportsmanlike conduct. But I forget what they called it specifically on a hit on Pat Freiermuth last week. I need to look at the injuries or the status on Justin Herbert for this one, but
I think he's still questionable, but he might have been at practice.
But if he plays in that game, it is going to be in LA. I really need to see a good game out of Patrick Mahomes this year. Like I said, he's still the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, but we have not seen a great game out of him in even the tail end of the regular season last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're the team to beat. They're obviously the number one team because they have Patrick Mahomes. But, I mean, it's not like he's really making a case for an MVP this year, which is like a first. That's the second time ever. The only other time was last year.
Justin Herbert's still sitting at questionable. The backup would be Taylor Heineke. Chargers are at plus 290 right now with the spread set at 7.
Yeah. And I mean, the Chargers rarely beat the Chiefs. You know,
that's true.
Especially if they have Taylor Heineke starting.
That's probably about all the games I'm really looking forward to. Do you have any other ones you're kind of on the lookout for?
I don't think so. This is kind of a quiet week.
Yeah, maybe we'll be surprised. By the way, Patrick Mahomes 8-2 against the Chargers in his career. Maybe we'll be surprised by a couple other ones. Maybe Panthers, Bengals will be good. Who knows?
Maybe Steelers, Colts if Anthony Richardson can get back.
Maybe that's a strong run game from both sides there. But other than that, that's about it for me on NFL Sunday.
Yeah. Not a lot for NFL Sunday.
But I know you don't know probably too much about this situation. I know when I put it on the docket, you were like, who is this Matthew Sluka guy? Who is he?
I have heard some stuff about him, but
we could talk about him real quick. This is a couple-day-old news now. But for those of you that don't know, Matthew Sluka is the quarterback was the quarterback for the UNLV Rebels, who started out the year 3-0. It's their best start since the 1980s, I want to say. And he announced on Twitter on Monday that he will be not playing anymore this year and electing to use his red shirt so that he can transfer after this year. And it, believed to be over some NIL disputes, not being given the money that he was promised when he said he was going to transfer there. Christian, your thoughts on this? I know I have mine. The old heads are going to be like, this is what NIL has done. But I think, honestly, this was about time that something like this happened.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be. I think the old heads might have an argument if he hadn't been guaranteed those NILs. He was told, he signed a contract, everything, told he was going to get this money.
Well, it doesn't sound like there was a contract.
Really?
Sounded like it from what I've heard. It sounds like it has been a verbal agreement.
Well, verbal agreements are binding. We got no law.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was barely given any money. Couldn't even cover his living expenses. For your starting quarterback, that's.
Yeah.
I don't blame him for being frustrated.
It sounded like he was just getting a little bit of a monthly stipend, as a lot of the before NIL college players were getting this. It's understandable. Mm-hmm. You're basically working a job as a college student, so even with those stipends, it was only couple $1,000 a month, which as a college student, as we know, that's nice, but when you're also playing football pretty much for a living, which is why NIL was created pretty much, and all the good stuff that comes with it. But I think really, the first thing I was telling our friend Tyler, when we were talking about this is why you get a contract, and if you want to do this, then you can sue. But with the murky world of NIL right now, there's no real rules. So
Yeah, which means there's nothing stopping him from getting out of there.
as a and as a personal stand on it, do you think it is kind of shady for him to be doing this and pretty much walking out on his team who has started 3-0? I mean, how do you think that the locker room really feels about that? Or I guess
Well,
how
I
would you
mean,
feel?
I would kind of understand it if I'm in there, because here's the thing, it's like it's a job. If you don't get paid for your job, I'm not going to be like, well, you still got to come in and work overtime and help us out. It's like, no, you're good, bro. Just leave. Find
Mm-hmm.
another job. Like, find one that's going to pay you, because, again, like, your employer should be making sure you get paid for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not being valued, obviously. So, you get 3-0 start, and then you don't make any money. It's like, why should I keep winning games for you?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people are also saying is, gosh, I just that this is obviously, and this is something that I brought up to Tyler as well, that listen, we know this is not a guy who's going to go to the NFL likely.
No.
He spent 4 years at Holy Cross, an FCS school out in New York, I want to say, and then he transfers to UNLV. Why would you do that? Probably because he did play pretty well at Holy Cross and to make some money. And when he's trying to make the most out of probably the most profitable years of his life. So I totally get that. But also, you don't think that this is maybe something that they can solve after the season?
I mean,
You might get
probably
paid a
not.
you might get paid a lot. You might be able to find a lot more opportunities, and maybe get some more money if you take them to possibly the college football playoffs, because they are one of the biggest contenders of the group of 5 schools to be able to do that.
I mean, would he even have any eligibility left?
Well, no, I mean just in the sense of you would probably make more money if you are, um, after the fact, if you were the quarterback of a team, especially UNLV, to take them to the college football playoffs.
Well, yeah, maybe, but that would only happen if he could play another year. And then it's just like, sure, you'd make more money in the long run, but then you also lose out on this whole year,
Yeah.
right?
So I guess that kind of reverts back to what I was saying, was he's just trying to make the most of this last year pretty much that he has.
Yeah.
I want to do some more. I've seen so much about this. I think it might have been, so this is actually an article from the Las Vegas Review Journal, which actually we know someone that works there, so it's nice to know. Representative from local casino. It looks like it was about, so UNLV rejected casino offer to pay Matthew Sluka $100,000. So it looked like that's kind of the number that I've been hearing, is that he was promised around $100,000, and there was really just the promise was obviously not being played out.
Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of money to lose.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. So and he's having to move across the country to go play here. Someone said it's got to be a little bit of a culture shock for him going from Holy Cross to UNLV. Yeah, that's the number I'm seeing. Has decided to sit out the rest of the season over $100,000 NIL payment that was promised but never paid after he agreed to transfer to the Rebels from Holy Cross last winter. And it's something a lot of people are also talking about, is how this looks for UNLV and their future endeavors to get transfers.
Yeah, and that also, it kind of damages his reputation a little bit too. Although there's
That's
not
what
much
I
he
was
could do
thinking
about it,
too.
because
That's what I was, yeah.
now these schools are going to be looking at him like, Okay, well, you're just here for the money, so who's to say you don't just do the same thing for us?
Right. And he's probably going to get, I mean, he's going to go somewhere else, I think, obviously. But
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of like, I don't think it's going to be a Power Five school when they find out about stuff like this. Like, I get it. We've been praising him, say, yo, go get your money. But also, it does being 3-0 not, does your team not have any effect on you? I'm sure he feels terrible walking out on his team right now. But I guess kind of like we said also, when you can go get your money, but
Yeah,
that is a factor.
yeah. Plus, it kind of kills UNLV's recruiting. I mean, as you said, just because if this comes out where it's like, oh, they aren't going to let their players get paid what they should, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, what's keeping me from just going to a different school that will help me
Hmm.
out?
Yeah, and they had a running back also in the same day, pretty much do the same thing. Said he's not going to play anymore. He's going to do his training. He's going to take his red shirt. Um, so yeah, just a very, very interesting time right now in college football.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's, I understand what the old heads are thinking just because this wouldn't be a thing if NIL wasn't a thing, you
mhm,
know? It's just, it makes everything so complicated because there's just no rules right now.
right.
And maybe if there was rules set up, this would absolutely be a good thing.
Hmm.
But you're just seeing like the best schools that can pay are the schools that can pay their players the most.
Yeah.
You look at Texas, and then you look at some of these,
Alabama,
yeah,
Oklahoma, all those SEC. I mean, it's the SEC schools and Big
yeah,
Ten for the most part.
yeah, and it's almost like taking the competitiveness of like, I mean, recruiting isn't even a thing anymore, right?
Hmm.
Because the best way to recruit is to be like, hey, you want money? Here you go, or hey, we're Georgia,
Hmm.
come to our school. So it's like,
Right.
plus the transfer portal just lets you kind of go wherever you want. We saw this with like Caden Proctor,
Hmm.
who when he transferred back to Iowa from Alabama
Hmm.
to get some NIL money and then immediately leave.
Right. Which I don't think he was ever paid any of that money from Iowa NIL. I hope so.
Yeah, because I mean that's just unlimited transfers, unlimited money. It's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, college football's in a weird place right now, and it doesn't seem like they even care to get this stuff regulated.
Hmm. I know it would be a lot, but I'm honestly hoping if we're going to do this NIL stuff that we get it in writing. Me personally, because when you talk about jobs and stuff, like, oh, if your job's not paying you, it's like, yeah, well, me and you, we both work. But when we did that, we signed contracts
Mm-hmm.
or, whatever you want to call it. And these NILs, it sounds like it's still, even though it's, legal now, there's still a lot of under the table kind of stuff. Like I can't just go up and look how much Iowa State probably had to pay Rocco Beck to stay because it was guaranteed that probably did have to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's shady.
Yeah.
Everything is shady.
Um, but our respective teams, well, I guess both still Iowa State fans, but you'll be watching the Minnesota game. They'll be playing Michigan at 11
Oh yeah,
on the road.
that's gonna be fun.
So, and then Iowa State plays on the road against Houston. I was reading an article yesterday, probably like the least exciting Big 12 game this week because,
Houston's awful.
yeah, uh, I'm not really too nervous about that, knock on wood, but, you know, that should be entertaining. I think the real fun's going to be Baylor at home next week, not just because I'm going to be there and enjoying a tailgate for the first time in a very, very long time, but just more of a challenge, honestly. And apparently they're going to have fireworks there, Christian, and a drone show. So has been the talk around the town.
Okay.
Hmm. And the whiteout.
Well, they better win
Oh,
with
they'll win.
all these.
Baylor lost to Colorado on a Hail Mary. So,
Well,
And
Colorado's probably the best team in the league.
that's
to be on.
Okay. I was like, we're at an hour 15 right now. If you're gonna start that, we're gonna have to go a little bit longer.
Hey, they are in contention for the Big 12.
That's true. They're 1-0. They have they have more Big 12 wins right now than Iowa State this year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
plus Shador is probably the best quarterback in college football.
That's not true.
Oh.
I could rattle off a couple more. Got Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, hell, maybe even Miller Moss from USC.
Yeah.
Carson Beck.
No. Nobody has the pure arm talent, accuracy, and
Alex Orji from Michigan. I'm just kidding.
Their backup, yeah.
That game did you watch that game at all last week? Michigan, they played USC, right? Yeah, USC.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good game, honestly, but gosh, they threw the ball, 5 times?
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to throw it.
That's true. They got like 3 NFL backs back there.
Yeah.
So.
Their backup quarterback is an NFL back.
But I think that's going to do it for us here at Trench Talk. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll probably see you guys again on Monday like we did this week. We'll recap Sunday football as well as preview some Monday night games. So thanks so much. We'll see you guys next time.